A tough loss for the Sun Devils leaves us a lot to talk about on this edition of the Locked On Sun Devils podcast.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for everything Arizona State Sun Devils. Thanks as always for tuning in. Wherever you get your podcast, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. You can stay in touch with that content by following me on Twitter at RichieBrads36 and the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. And of course, thanks as always to my everydayers who are here every single day. You can be an everyday or two when you turn on those notifications and make us your first listen of the day. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started. This was not an easy loss. I think is the best and nicest and most polite way that I can describe it, because this was just a brutal game. You know, Arizona State started off the game with a lead, and in fact, they didn't surrender a lead until the third quarter. Arizona State was up 15-10 at halftime. They were moving the ball on offense. They were being efficient. They were getting it done in the run game. They were able to connect on some deep passes. The defense was playing very, very well, but it was a tale of two halves. And football is a 60-minute game, not a 30-minute game. And when the second half rolled around, the Cowboys took over. And from there, it was all gas and no brakes for them. They end up winning that game 27-15, which if you didn't watch, yes, the Sun Devils were shut out in the second half, which means that through two games, the Sun Devils have 3 points in the second half combined. That's not going to win you a lot of football games. Everything just started to fall apart for the Sun Devils. They weren't able to generate anything on offense. They couldn't find any consistency, which led the defense to being out on the field for too long. And we're going to talk about the defense in just a second because they play very well, but you can only play good for so long before you get tired and fatigued. And the amount of time that you spend on the football field really starts to take its toll on you. But let's go ahead and we'll start with the good, like we normally do. We'll go and talk about the bad in the second segment, and then we will head on to our takeaways towards the end of the podcast. So here is the good that came out of the game. Honestly, there is some really good things to take out of it, but most of it was the first half. And the biggest thing that I took away from this game is Elijah Badger is back. Not that he had a bad game last week when he was able to get onto the football field. He did have that big return on special teams. He was able to create separation down the field. They just didn't connect with him. But in this game, he was able to really get going. He ended up only having 3 catches, but he turned it into 80 yards and a touchdown, including a 65-yard catch and run. He's a beast. He is an absolute beast. He is everything that he was advertised to be from last season when he started to come on strong. Through 2 games this year, he looks like an explosive, big play waiting to happen. 2 games, he has had signature plays in both games. This game, he got into the end zone. He was making plays. He also had 2 carries for 21 yards. So basically, it was kind of the game of, let's give Elijah Badger the football and then allow him to make stuff happen once he gets the ball. 101 total yards for him on just 5 touches, got into the end zone. Yeah, Badger's back, and Badger is a certified number 1 receiver. He makes it just look so easy, which makes life a lot easier for Jaden Rashada. It makes life easier for the run game because it opens up everything underneath, because suddenly the top of the defense is being exposed. It makes life easier for Auxiliary to be the number 2 receiver and for other guys to step up as well. This is just a very good game for him, but nothing that we aren't accustomed to seeing. The second thing that really stood out to me, of course, is Cameron Scadaboo. He is going to be one of the biggest components of the offense this year. Wasn't able to get over 100 total scrimmage yards, but he still managed 62 yards on 14 carries on the ground with a touchdown. He also caught the ball once, but it was a loss of 1 yard, probably one he should have pretended to drop, kind of thing, like, oh no, ball fell down, instead of catching it and trying to make something happen out of it. But nonetheless, he was able to really get some stuff going. The Sun Devils got kind of creative with him, and they brought back their Sparky package. And if you're not aware of what the Sparky package is, it's basically the Wildcat, where the running back is taking the snaps and there's another running back next to him. But Arizona State is never going to call it the Wildcat for very obvious reasons. So we call it the Sparky package. It was a really big thing when Kalen Ballage was here. This is just for the new fans, right? But they were getting creative with Scadaboo, and they were giving him those opportunities to just kind of run the offense, and very literally run the offense. And he still looks as advertised. He's going to be an absolute beast for the Sun Devils this year. He is going to be one of the biggest components of them being able to move the ball consistently and efficiently. Very happy with what you were able to get out of him. Of course, on the defensive side of the football, first of all, they played their absolute hearts out. This defense played so well for Arizona State. And it's worth noting just how well that they have performed thus far in the season, because they played pretty well last week. They only gave up, goodness, you won that game 24-21. They gave up 14 points in that whole game. And I wouldn't count the special teams touchdown. They played a very safe game last week. They played a very good game this week. Held Oklahoma State to just 10 points in the first half. Of course, that kind of fell off in the second half, but that had a lot more to do with the offense than it did the defense. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But defense did very, very well. Limited them to 191 passing yards. They limited them to 113 rushing yards with 31 carries. So once again, under 4 yards per carry on the ground. They did a really good job through the air to hold them under 200 yards on 32 attempts. So they're just finding a way to get it done right now. And they are still looking for their first interception of the season. However, they were able to get to the quarterback 3 separate times with BJ Green as the big flashy guy. We've been waiting for it to happen, and it happened. BJ Green in this game had 2 sacks. He was just living in the backfield, whether it was creating pressures or bringing down the quarterback, which he did. And 2 sacks. Look, man, he's a half sack away from matching his total last year. We have seen the effect of him being a full-time starter for the Sun Devils this year, and it has been outstanding. Everything that you could possibly want out of him. He's a beast. They were also able to get a 3rd sack where Prince Dorbaugh and Trey Brown were able to get into the backfield and split it. Could have had a 4th from Clayton Smith, but it was wiped out from a penalty. I believe it was either illegal contact or it was a hold in the secondary. But you potentially could have had 4 sacks. And I don't even know if the Sun Devils had 3 sacks in one game last year, let alone 4. They were just making plays, man. And BJ Green was one of the biggest reasons for the pass rush to be so alive. He gave other guys opportunities to be able to make plays, and he's a stud. We've known this. It's just nice to finally see everything come to fruition for him, everything start to line up in the way that we've known for a while that he could possibly be that big-time difference maker in your pass rush. And lo and behold, that's exactly what he was able to do for you. So you love to see it. You know what else you love to see? You love to see Athletic Brewing and the way that they have been a game changer in the non-alcoholic brewing company. So right now, your game changer of the week was brought to you by Athletic Brewing Company. And just like Elijah Badger, who was making plays all over the field, Athletic Brewing Company has changed the non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beers that actually taste good. I already talked about them, but I'll tell you again. Badger was over 100 total scrimmage yards. He got into the end zone. He made plays with the ball in his hands. He is lightning in a bottle. And with Athletic Brewing Company sponsoring this, they've completely changed that non-alcoholic beer game. They make non-alcoholic beer that actually tastes good. And I'll tell you what, with over 50 styles of craft non-alcoholic beer, including IPAs, golden sours, and more, you're never going to be running out of great things to try out from them. They're fit for all times. You can drink them anytime, anywhere and make activities more fun, like watching the big game, going to your kids' events, tackling work, working out, whatever. And of course, there's no hangovers ever. You can find Athletic Brewing Company's non-alcoholic brews at a store near you or buy online at athleticbrewing.com. First-time customers can use the code Locked On to get 15% off your first order. That's code Locked On at checkout for 15% off at athleticbrewingcompany.com. Near beer, exclusions and conditions apply. Athletic Brewing Company, fit for all times. College football season's here, and the Locked On podcast crew is kicking up their coverage with Locked On College Football Kickoff Live each Friday. Locked On will go live from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on every Locked On College channel on YouTube. College Football Kickoff Live will cover impact, playoff implications, the conference rivalry games, and go in-depth like Locked On can only provide, to include the insight, analysis, and more from our stable of Locked On College hosts covering their teams every day. Find Locked On College Football Kickoff Live every Friday, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Eastern on any and all Locked On College Football YouTube channel. You won't want to miss it. We promise it's the best coverage that you're going to find. Let's go ahead and get back into our conversation now about what's going on with the bad for the Sun Devils. Took me a second to process. There really is, like I said, it was a tale of two halves. You had some bad that was going on in the second half a lot more than in the first half. And it really starts with the offensive side of the football. They were shut out. They were shut out. They scored 15 in the first half, and then they were unable to get back into the end zone or really even in the field goal range. Couldn't do anything. A lot of that, unfortunately, falls on Jaden Rashada, who once again was not the sharpest quarterback in the world. Goes 16 of 29, so better from a week ago. He was able to complete over 60% of his passes. Just 167 passing yards, 1 touchdown, and an interception. It wasn't a great interception either. He's a freshman, guys. He's not going to be perfect. He's not going to be like this massive Heisman Trophy candidate. Never fair expectations to be placing on a guy like Jaden Rashada. Cross that bridge when you get to it. But he struggled. He really did. I'm thinking that the deep ball is just going to be very inconsistent this year because he struggled once again in the second half to be able to hit that shot down the field. For the Sun Devils offense, they just couldn't get it going, and they just couldn't. And it's really unfortunate that they're not able to be a consistent passing team down the field. But again, he's a freshman. It'll take some time. He doesn't suck. He's just working through it. But yeah, I think you look at last week's game against Southern Utah, and I don't know if you can point and blame the weather for being the reason he wasn't able to hit the deep ball. I think it's just some inconsistencies with him because he didn't do it again this week. And in the second half, especially, couldn't get it going. He had some guys that were open and just was not able to connect with them. Xavier Guillory was one of the guys who not benefited. The opposite of benefited was hampered. There you go. Hampered the most by this. 4 catches, 47 yards with a long of 34, and that came on a 4th down near the end of the game. Guillory was just not able to get involved in the passing game because you had Rashada that was just so inconsistent. It's part of growing, it's part of learning, all that good stuff, but it still hurts. The offense as a whole, though, was just not able to get stuff going. I know that it was fun to see the Sparky package rolled out again, but man, it felt like there was a lot of times where they just should not have done it. At some point, it just was not working. The defense for the Cowboys was making adjustments, and they were able to snuff that out and understand that when Scadaboo was in not under center, but was taking the snaps, like, you knew exactly what it was. The Sun Devils weren't trying to disguise it or making it seem like it might have been something else. He was running the ball every time. He didn't hand it off. He didn't go one way or the other. It was just a dive every time, and it stopped working. So at some point, you got to be able to make those adjustments, which leads me into there were no adjustments made. They were stale in the second half. And I just don't know what was going on. Maybe they were trying to make adjustments, but whatever they were doing, it just wasn't working, man. It wasn't there. It hadn't been there the entire time. And this is a team that really just struggled to do anything in the second half. They weren't hitting those deep balls. They weren't running the ball as well. They really dropped down in the second half. You ended up averaging under 4 yards per carry. You could tell me they averaged less than 3 yards a carry in the second half, and I would believe you. I don't have the splits in front of me, but they just could not get stuff going. And again, it just felt like the adjustments weren't made. And if there were adjustments, none of them were successful. So the Sun Devils have got to find a way to be able to be a more consistent football team for 60 minutes, because you can't come out and look good for 30 minutes and then look terrible for the last 30 minutes. You're not going to win football games that way. You're not going to win almost any football games that way. They've got to find a way to make those adjustments. And then, of course, the defense was just left out to dry. Like, they played such a good football game. And it's so unfortunate that they were put on the football field as much as they were during the game, because you can only be on the field so much before you just get to the point of exhaustion and you are unable to be effective. You look at the splits, and they were ahead of the Sun Devils by about 3 minutes on time of possession. They possessed the ball for 31 minutes and 27 seconds. But again, I would love to see the splits for what ended up happening in the second half compared to the first half, because there was a lot of long, sustained drives for the Cowboys defense or Cowboys offense, excuse me. They were able to move the ball down the field, and it wasn't to the fault of the defense. They were playing a really good game. But you get tired. And when the Sun Devils offense is going 3 and out, punting the ball and giving the ball right back to the offense, like, at some point that level of fatigue is going to catch up with you. And that's exactly what happened. And it stinks, because they had played such a quality game. They were putting together a lot of great efforts, all for naught, because the offense was just so porous that no matter what they tried to do, it just wasn't enough. It wasn't enough to keep their defense off the field, to be able to give them that break so that they could generate pressure, they could be able to hold coverage longer. It wasn't there. And I truly do not blame the defense for that. I feel like that's entirely aptitude from the offense. But bet online, or not bet online, goodness. The NFL season is here. And with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, you are going to love everything that they have to offer you, because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. And all new customers who bet $5 will get $100 off their NFL Sunday ticket package from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. The app is easy to use, and you can bet on everything from spreads to player props and more. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Wherever you're getting your podcast, hit like, subscribe, turn on notifications so you get an update whenever we post new content. It's daily. It's free and available on all platforms. I got 3 takeaways here for the Sun Devils. Three takeaways. And part of this is from the game. Part of it is from what we have learned through 2 games. The first thing is more about what we've seen from the first 2 games. And, like, is this a one-half team? Because we saw this last year. We saw the Sun Devils were a one-half team. Sometimes it was the first half, sometimes it was the second half, but they did not put together a full 60 minutes. And so far, that's the way it's looking. So far, that's what we're seeing out of this team, is they're just not able to put together a full 60 minutes. Offensively, they're really just hanging them out to dry. They're wasting the defense right now. The defense is playing really good. But unfortunately, you can only play so good for so long before everything starts to catch up to you. And you get tired, you get fatigued. The offense is just able to have those long, sustained drives that keeps the defense out there for too long. and then the offense puts them right back on the field. It's unfortunate. You got to be able to see these guys put together a full 60 minutes. I don't care how you do it. I don't care if you run the ball 50 times or if you pass the ball 50 times, but you've got to be more efficient. You've got to find ways to be able to have your own long, sustained drives that give the defense time to breathe, that give the defense time to get hydrated and get prepared. If you're throwing a defense right back out there after 5 minutes of being on the sidelines, it's going to catch up with you. So that's the first takeaway is like right now you're looking like a one-half team once again. You need to find a way to be consistent for 60 minutes because the defense is only going to be able to do so much, which leads me to the next point, and that's that the defense is playing very well. Brian Ward has got these guys playing out of their minds right now, and you're getting performances across the board. Shamari Simmons and Tate Romney are tied for the team lead in tackles with 13 each. Shamari Simmons has been a very good safety for you. He's been able to fly around the football field. He's making those sure tackles. Tate Romney is a guy who we weren't even sure if he was going to be a starter at any point this year, and he's been the starter for 2 games. And again, he's playing really well. He's able to be the sure tackler. He flies around the football field. He's near at the line of scrimmage, being able to contain plays. He's played well. Trey Brown has played well. Ro Torrance kind of going up and down right now. He didn't have his best game. This past week, there was a phantom pass interference call against him that was really flimsy, but nonetheless, it got called, and it's just going to add up, man. So, but aside from that, he's still really good. BJ Green is as advertised. Had 2 sacks this past game. I imagine he's going to have plenty more the rest of the year. Clayton Smith looks really good too. They're getting very good play out of D Ford across. Jordan Clark is really good. Chris Edmonds is playing well. Sean Mallory has been good from the interior. This defense is just playing so well right now. And you hope that they're able to keep it up and bring that consistency every single week. Because if the offense is going to be inept for some of the time on the field, at least you have the defense to lean on and have them be able to be that consistency and be that component of your team that is able to help you get some more wins. Defense looks great. Brian Ward is as advertised. That was very high on him going into the offseason. I'm even higher on him right now because he's got these guys playing with confidence. They're playing with swagger. They're finding ways to be able to play good football. The turnovers are going to come too. I know we haven't had a turnover in the first 2 games, at least not any interceptions. I don't believe there's been any fumble recoveries. There have not. There was a forced fumble, but they have not recorded any turnovers yet. So it'll come. Until then, defense is playing well. Final takeaway here, Jaden Rashada is a freshman, man. Jaden Rashada is going to be up and down. He's going to have some really great games. He's going to have some really stinkers, really bad stinkers. Like this game in particular, probably more bad than good, but that's okay. He'll get there. So I don't want to hear people in my comments. I don't want to hear people hit me up on Twitter. I don't want people texting me that Rashada sucks. He doesn't suck. He is a freshman. He is in his 2nd collegiate game. He's not going to be perfect. It's just not a fair and realistic expectation that he's going to be everything. Okay? Making that very clear to you right now. Anyone who's listening, hear me. He's a freshman. It takes time. Honestly, I'm not even going to give you the time of day if you sit here and tell me Jaden sucks. I'm not going to entertain that conversation. If by the end of the year he has more interceptions and touchdowns, we can start having a conversation. We can start it up if this ends up getting worse. But if he plays the way he's been playing for a full 12 games, you can't say he sucks. You can say he's a freshman and he's getting the ropes. He's going to have highs and he's going to have lows. Okay? It's just going to happen. Understand that. It would be awesome if he could come out and immediately be a Heisman contender and immediately be somebody that can lead you to the postseason and contend for the conference. But he's not. More than likely, he's not. We still have 10 games. Could totally surprise some people. We'll get there when we get there. But until then, understand he's a freshman and understand that he's going to have some bad games. He's going to have a lot of bad throws. He's going to have bad decisions. Understand that, and your life is going to be so much easier. What were your guys' biggest takeaways? What were the best parts of the game? What were the worst parts of the game? What do you think moving forward? Let me know in the comments on YouTube. You can also hit me up on Twitter at RichieBrads36 and the podcast as well at LO_Sun Devils. But as always, I appreciate you guys tuning in. Remember, wherever you get your podcast, to hit like and subscribe. Turn on notifications because we're free and available on all platforms every single day, 5 days a week. Thanks as always for tuning in. I will see you guys tomorrow. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.